We act surprised every time a billionaire gets caught running a supply chain of human beings. We watch the news and ask how men in that tax bracket could buy and sell people like commodities. But America has been in the franchise business of sexual predation for centuries. We are looking at a system that was built, tested, and scaled long before the current headlines. If you look up the 19th century domestic slave trade, you find a formal, explicitly marketed sales category called fancy girls. This wasn't a whispered secret. It was a price tier for young black women sold explicitly for sexual exploitation, a luxury line item in the American ledger. Phrases like fancy girls only surface in the historical record when an entire society has agreed to legally normalize a crime. In hubs like New Orleans, traders manufactured a racialized fantasy to move their product. They used colorism and proximity to whiteness to make buyers feel they were purchasing refined caste instead of committing a felony. This chart shows the pricing data from 1850. A prime field hand, a man bought for intense physical labor, cost about $1,500, but fancy girls regularly fetched $5,000. The law acted as the muscle for this market. It protected property rights over human lives, ensuring that as long as the check cleared, a white man faced no meaningful consequence inside a system he designed for himself. This violence functioned as a foundational, heavily taxed revenue stream, engineered for white male pleasure from the start. When the 13th Amendment was signed, the market didn't vanish. It underwent a structural renovation. The legal framework changed, but demand remained. The state swapped the auction block for systemic vulnerability. By using redlining and over policing, the government manufactured the conditions of the old plantation. Systemic neglect creates a vacuum of safety, leaving a steady supply of youth from modern brokers to harvest. When you got the resources of a neighborhood, you are essentially leaving the doors unlocked for predators. Modern trafficking runs on the same logistics as the old trade. The paperwork just got an upgrade, while the destination for the vulnerable remained the same. Modern abusers act as high end brokers, using wealth to source victims and move them through global networks. They have simply traded the slave pen for the private jet, and the law creates an exit ramp for the client. The federal reckless disregard standard means a buyer can claim ignorance as a legal defense. If they use a fixer to keep the chains out of sight, the law decides the chains don't exist. Wealthy patrons essentially buy a layer of legal insulation. By using intermediaries, the client class ensures that their state of mind is a higher priority for the courts than the victim's trauma. Even recent internet regulations helped the elite by pushing the market off public platforms. It moved the trade into encrypted networks and private villas, places where law enforcement has no digital smoking gun. The system is doing exactly what it was built to do: prosecute the street level supply while providing heavy legal curtains for the wealthy demand. Look at the data. Black women and girls are only 7% of the US population, yet they represent 40% of all confirmed sex trafficking victims. This disparity is the highly successful, designed outcome of a 400-year-old economy of extraction. It's the predictable yield of a country that learned to treat these specific bodies as currency. We see this legacy in the fight over high profile evidence files. The public demands names, but the Justice Department returns pages covered in thick black ink. These heavy redactions shield the architects of the system, acting as legal curtains protecting the powerful. The reflex of our institutions has always been to protect the client class first, treating a systemic crime like a PR problem that needs to be managed. The crisis of missing and murdered Black and Indigenous women is the direct descendant of the fancy girl trade. It's the same red thread of commodification running through American history. The blueprint teaches us that if your net worth is high enough, violence isn't a crime, it's a luxury service. We don't need more symbolic awareness months or performative bills that focus on training. Accountability requires strict criminal liability for the buyers and corporate entities profiting from this extraction. You cannot fix a house built on this blueprint with a new coat of paint. You have to get it to the studs.